The GAA Hour with Colin Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
And when I started running, I suppose I didn't stop, and when I got the chance to go, I said I should go, so I opened up.
We're only the small little fish out there, so we are, and we're trying hard to make it through. But it's hard to get the breaks when you're the smaller fish.
Because I love this county so much, you know, and it's just, I'm delighted that the lads did it for the people of Waterford today, because like I'm heartbroken.
So there's definitely a post-best season of all time hangover, I think, JJ. JJ is with me in studio and Brian is on the line. I don't know, has the season can't kick in? We're coming down from such heights.
Yeah.
We have a hangover here. Because I don't know about you, I was watching those two games yesterday and they weren't gripping me.
No, they were kind of at their own little level, like, you know what I mean. They weren't trying to show their whole hand.
Some interesting talking points, which we'll get to.
Interesting talking points, but it was it full pelt 100%. I don't think it was, to be honest with you. You know, kind of, so people are trying to get what they want out of the league as well. Bonus is a league final, to be fair. Limerick are in it now as well, so it'll be hard bet when you get there as well. But yeah, it was kind of glorified really practice matches, really, more than that. And if you
that feeling about them, I thought.
Yeah, it wasn't really even the crowd weren't really getting involved in the games either, you know, that kind of way. So it was a case of, if we win it's a bonus, if we don't, then sure, look, we'll get ready for the championship. But again, let's not fool anyone, the championship is where it's what it's all about. The Leinster League and Munster League, that's what everyone is concentrating on. And every inter-county manager is getting a few bits and pieces out of the league, and probably if they haven't got it already, they probably won't get it out of it now, you know, that kind of way. So they probably have got what they got out of the league and just wanted to pick up. No injuries coming out of it. But then you see what happened Galway there as well in the last few minutes with Joe going down injured. I say they're sweating up there over in the west now with that injury.
We'll definitely get to that. We'll get to that in a second. Maybe it is, Brian, when you see the likes of Galway going out in a league semi-final and only playing 7 lads from last year's team, it doesn't really lend itself to supporters going, this is really important. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's a fair point, Willie, because they're clearly not targeting this one. I know they're being given their chance to the boys that have been playing all this league, but you know, they're not really going at full frontal charge of this and everything. Being honest, for the first time in a long time, I can say I was kind of bored watching them yesterday.
Yeah,
and it's not often I say that about hurling. It just kind of seemed to be petering along, and you know, so it wasn't exactly the best spectacle for hurling. If I was the Allianz marketing directors, I wouldn't be overly happy with the changes that have been made in the GAA world, because the league now has become a bit of a joke in hurling. I know you've raised this point a good few times, but it's just a warm-up competition. Managers are afraid to show too much. They know that the Munster and Leinster championships, the 4 or 5 weeks that they last, or maybe 6 this year, they're just so intense that they can't afford to go flat out for this league, and I think it's had a massive knock-on effect this year.
Had a massive knock, and thank Pádraig Fanning for at least showing a bit of delight at reaching a league final. He says we're delighted to be in it. Like, I mean, Michael Donoghue didn't care that they lost, didn't seem to care. You had John Kiley playing down with another game.
Yeah.
It is a league final.
Yeah.
I said the same
thing. It should be
thing
more than just another game.
It should, though. An Alliance would be disappointed, because like, you're at the point now where I felt bored a little bit watching them myself. It felt like work watching. Maybe not work. Like, I mean, but
you're expecting more out of the games.
I was, because
you're excited going into watching these couple of games.
I gave them a big sell last Thursday, thinking
which,
this is
rightly so, because the 4 teams available are probably the best 4 teams left in the league basis, like, you know, the kind of, so you're expecting high scoring, high hitting, high intensity, but it was just kind of you score, I score, you know, the kind of way, that kind of a feel to it. But again, inter-county managers then are probably saying, right, we'll finish the league basis now, let them back to the clubs for a couple of weeks, and then look forward to the Munster and Leinster championship. That's what it's all about.
That's it, unfortunately.
Right, well, dancing around it.
No, there absolutely isn't. We'll start with you, JJ, then, on this Joe Canning thing. So was that hit illegal? Now, it was a shoulder-to-shoulder challenge, which is absolutely fine. But if you're in the process of striking, is that then illegal? I'm not sure what the situation there is, because Joe was about to strike. Is it a shoulder-to-shoulder when you're in the act of striking?
I think it was. It wasn't. I didn't think it was illegal. No way. I think it was a fair challenge, fair shoulder-to-shoulder with it. You don't see that. Probably we're looking at now, is enough, because you don't see too many of them anymore. You know,
it was a brilliant hit.
The referee is always blowing it, because again, you're trying to, like, if Kevin Moran was probably 2 seconds late, he would have got a red card for the tackle, but he got it spot on. He hit him as he hit the ball, and the ball went out. A great block and the connection as well. So the only thing is that Joe was injured. I'd say the way they're talking about his groin injury, maybe the way he twisted his body when Kevin hit him, But it was a solid hit. I'd be very, very disappointed now if that was a free in, to be honest.
Right. What do you think? But look, obviously it was a perfect hit. The only thing I was wondering about is potentially if you're like in Gaelic football, if I throw up the ball to kick it and somebody shoulders me at that point, that's usually a free.
Yeah, well, actually, would you believe a referee sent me the rule on it this morning to clarify for this show that it's actually 100% legal. You can hit them shoulder to shoulder, even in the act of playing the ball. So once it's shoulder to shoulder. So fair play to him for sending that on to me. And so look, perfectly timed. And I'm saying that from a forward's perspective as well. I know JJ definitely would have the fullback's cap on him, delighted with a hit like that.
Yeah.
But Joe has been on the tail end of a couple of these.
Yeah.
If you remember the big one, Pádraig Maher hit him as well. So you're a sitting duck when you're Joe, and he was driving straight to the centre. And no way that was a free. I actually thought he could have got a free just before that. I thought his hurl was flicked by Jamie Barron. Maybe could have been pulled back for a free in. Might have been a soft one, but still I thought he was being pulled out going forward. So, but it just shows the bravery of Joe. It was almost himself and the two Manions driving Galway forward yesterday at times.
Yeah.
And particularly in that later stages, and Waterford shut down shop completely. That's besides the point. Joe, in fairness to him, it looks like it's a bad injury. I read this morning that it could be a dead leg, so hopefully that's all it is. I suppose they'll only know exactly what happened to him. So I hope he's not injured too much, because it shows great bravery going through there as well. That's where the real bravery is. No offence, anyone can come out and hit a lad when he's wide open. It's having that bravery to go straight through and leave yourself open to see.
Yeah, it was Jamie Barron's little flick before it as well, and Joe, the ball bouncing ground, and then by the time Joe had it up in his hand, Kevin Moran was in and topped him straight away. If Jamie didn't get in that flick, I'd say he would have seen Kevin Moran coming and he would have avoided that hit completely. Like, you know what I mean? So it's important. Yeah, there was a free, but he flicked the hurl, the ball broke onto the ground, and then by the time he had it up in his hand, ready to hit it, Kevin was in and topping it too. Small little things can work for you or work against you. It's funny. Yeah,
it's absolutely. Well, Joe's able to dish it out himself. He gave a good hit on Tadhg de Burka, and I didn't think that was a free either. Joe was pissed off about it, and what took away from that was Carney was getting sent off at the same time. I think that overlapped on that. But Joe, I thought that was a fair hit on Tadhg de Burka. But it was interesting comments from Micheál Donoghue, right? So he says, I think it was his groin. He took a few heavy hits on it, and I'd be intrigued to watch it back and see the hits he got going into it just before the tackle. Then he was asked if he'd been worried that Canning could have been hurt. He says, no, sure, look, that's the nature of it. There would be one in particular I'd be interested to see back. I'd like to see it back, and I'd say it would be quite obvious. Not sure what one he's talking about there. I think did one of the fellas, I know Barron was chasing after him. I'm not sure who else was chasing after him. Was there something illegal going on? Was he swinging the hurl a bit wild at him behind him? Or
this is when he picked it up, and where he picked up and where he finished it. There's not too many players would actually get from A to B, because he's so strong actually on the burst, and when he brilliant at pushing off players as well. He goes into the tackle, pushes you off, and then accelerates at the same time. So no matter what you do, you're very, very hard to get him back when he does get in his stride, you see. But I'd say he was borderline fouled as well in engaging that tackle. But Joe is so strong, so physically strong and quick, he just threw him out of the way and went on again. He could have been talking about that, but maybe he was talking, as what Brian said, about that flick from Jamie Barron just before he got that hit. As I said, that was a free, but again, that kind of lined him up for Kevin to come in and hit him a shot, because he had to concentrate, get back into the ball, and the ball in his hand again. So Kevin was in on top of him before he realised it,
Right, okay.
Maybe he was talking about that.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Definitely a dead leg would be more consistent with the hit than a groin injury, or maybe, I suppose, a big hit can send you flying and you can extend something as well. So it looked like Joe, it was serious the way he was motionless on the ground. There's no doubt about that. What did you make, Brian, of the Carney sending off? Is it a yellow card to throw away somebody else's hurl? Is that he's seen as you're in with the referees here and they're sending you clarifications?
Well, I suppose it was just a real aggressive play. He was in the middle of going to hit him, and then he's kind of pulled out and just threw his hurl away. So I suppose it's kind of just all around just being bowled, I suppose, and the ref is like, look, can't take any of that. Yellow card. It was no more than a yellow card, definitely. It's just unlucky that he was only second. It was petulance, I suppose. Again, another one of those ones, hard to see him being sent off in the middle of summer, or hard to see him, reacting. See, I suppose from his perspective, he was really frustrated because he felt Aidan Hart had left him under the high ball, and he got up kick out of that, So I can see why he reacted. I suppose it was just dangerous play all around. That's my take on it anyway. By the way, going back to the Joe Canning one, I don't know if you watched the young lads in the background in the stand. There's about 10 young lads from Waterford, and just the sheer delight when they seen Kevin Moran hitting Joe Canning. They were all fist pumping and jumping up and down. I just thought it was absolutely hilarious, by the way.
But that's the thing, though. Like, let's be honest. Kevin Moran, like, number one, putting a hit in like that on, nobody wants to injure another player, but if you hit somebody legally and he has to go off injured, well, that's fantastic. Let's call a spade a spade. Like, I mean, it's the perfect situation. Your manager would be delighted with you.
Actually, even Kevin went over and just see how he was as well after. Like, you know what I mean? It was a genuinely fair hit. Like, and probably don't see it too often anymore. That's why we're probably talking about it so much that we don't see it. Like, but no, fantastic hit now, and especially with one of your main leaders. He was hurling well at the time as well, and to lay down a mark like that is huge for any team. Sure, especially down to 14 men then as well. After it just lifts the whole crowd, and I'd say to be the lads talking about that down in Waterford there today as well. Like, you know what I mean? That's what it's all about.
Sure, definitely will. Pádraig Mahoney took shortening the hurl to new levels. Brian, did you see this towards the end? Like, I mean, usually you'd see your hands go halfway down the hurl. He practically held the boss of the hurl and just flicked it or put it over. I don't know how he did it. It looked like almost like a tennis stroke.
Yeah, and he actually had his grip quite long on the hurl as well. I still he was well beyond where the grip was. He actually came into his own, in fairness to him, in the last 10 minutes when they were down to 14 men. He got a couple of great scores, so he's carrying on his rich vein of form from the Ballygunner, you know, Munster final win and All-Ireland semi-final series. So to me he's absolute class as far as I'm concerned. And in fairness to him, he's not showing any hangover, not being on the freeze either. He's just getting on with it, and you know, he's shown that there's a lot more to his game than just free taking too. Yeah,
I think he might be on the freeze come championship, lads. I think so. I don't know. I think Stephen Bennett might not necessarily be on it, but that's just my take on that. Whether I could have it completely wrong. I know
what you're saying. Not to go away from that for a second. And exactly what you're saying. Like, I think Stephen Bennett's been under huge pressure, especially since Pádraig Mahoney's come back and Austin Gleeson's been back. But he's been practically flawless. Like, he's hitting outrageous frees from long distance as well. Like, that's serious pressure on him to take those. It's hard enough to take them anyway without the internal pressure with inside the camp as well. So I think he's been hugely impressive from that perspective. But I know what you're saying. Sometimes it's just there's a better feel to the team when kind of the main man is hitting the frees in Pádraig Mahoney that they trust the most. You know, I think as I said, we saw that with Galway a couple of years ago with Conor Cooney hitting them instead of Joe Canning, and sometimes it just sits better if certain lads hit them. But fair play to Stephen Bennett, because I think he's under serious pressure.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to talk to you about what Michael Rice was talking about on TG Cahir. So he was on at half time of the Waterford Galway game, and he had two slitters. He had one brand new slitter and he had one worn slitter. And he was talking about the bloody slitters and he was saying something that one team was doing. And I was thinking to myself, this looks like a Donald O'Cusa kind of tampering trick. And I was trying to listen. I couldn't feckin' understand what he was saying.
You weren't the only one, were you?
So I says to JJ before we came in here, did you understand Michael Rice? No, I couldn't understand him. So I'm gone with you. And you didn't hear him, Brian. So none of us know what... this could have been the controversy of the year, and none of us could understand it.
Straight overhead.
Oh Lord! So, like, I mean, just a couple of talking points from the Dublin Limerick matches. John Kiley used language in his post-match interview, and I don't ever want to see this creep into the GAA. So this is what he said. I wrote it down when I was listening to it. At least that was in English. So he says, we put more numbers into the breakdown, and we put more numbers into the rucks. The breakdown. There's two rugby terms he's used, and I'll accept rucks. Rucks happen in hurling, that's fair enough. Breakdown is starting to come into hurling analysis, JJ.
It's a new one on me now, to be honest with the breakdowns, to be honest.
See what he means, but don't use that. The breaking ball, we say, John.
It's a terminology is coming into the game now, right now, to be fair, but yeah, once he says it, you can actually see, you can pinpoint after the game where they're actually working on it right now. But look, they're physically imposed, a physically strong team, so then the middle 8 or whatever they have in around there, it could be middle 10, what they have at the moment, you know what I mean, are very, very, very strong, and in the break of speed there as well, so you can see why they're playing into their strength, like, you know what I mean, because not too many teams so far in the league, I know it's only a league, but not many teams so far can stand up to Limerick within that middle third of the field, because they swamp it.
Yeah.
And then it's break at speed as well. Like.
Yeah, so maybe it's a breakdown. And Cian Lynch said after the game that they stuck to the process. And now, Brian, we're getting used to that. There's a lot of players throwing this process in. That's a Joe Schmidt one. What the hell is going on here? We can't have process breakdown and rucks all after a hurling match.
Two conversations.
Limerick had a lot of go forward balls.
Well,
Give me a break.
That's the thing. They are down in very heavy rugby country down there in Limerick, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think, again, they're looking for edges. I think, with these terms and all that, and they're being hugely professional. But, keep it simple, please. Us folk that were reared on the old catch it and hit it.
I was on to you, Brian, about Concannon's Gaelic football pass against Wexford, and you didn't like it very much. But you have to admit that Cian Lynch's pass for Flanagan's goal was a Gaelic football pass.
I do not have to admit any such thing.
It was
a glorious pass.
Brian, but that's all joking aside. But I would say there's how many players in the game would have given a pass in that situation other than Cian Lynch? It was incredible. The point was on. A tap over point at that stage just increases your lead. He just wanted to bury it. It's almost showboating, wasn't it?
Oh, look, it was fantastic. There's two other players that I think are brilliant at this. Just John McGrath and Jason Ford. I think they have serious telepathy, and they've been doing that with you well and Tipperary over the couple of years. So there are people that are well able to do it, but it's huge because it's splitting defences completely. Yeah, you're dead right. 100%, 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, I think players would have put that ball over the bar. Seamus Flanagan was coming like a train, so they've worked on this too, because that type of movement doesn't just happen by chance. You're trying to get into that space, and if you know it's going to come, that's what's going to create these opportunities. So it's trust all around. I think is the big thing. I was debating this with some of my mates, and some of them were in green. Some were saying, "Well, what's the point in even saying this?" But I do think Cian Lynch, there was a slight block on Cian Lynch's pass if you go back and look at it, and it deflected it just perfectly into Seamus Flanagan's hands.
Really?
He was look, don't get me wrong, he was always going to pass it.
You're taking it away from Brian, are you?
I didn't see a block on that.
Go back and look. Yeah, go back and look. I think there's a slight pass, but look, and I know people will say, well, what are you raising this for? Just shows though that's why it went exactly to hand. Could have went just in front of him. I still think it would have been a goal. I'm delighted, obviously, it got the goal.
Yeah, well, you could be kicked out of the Hurling Pundits Union now for pointing out something for not cheerleading from that goal. I'm cheerleading it and you're not. This is unusual. Because that's the thing I was going to ask you, JJ, the skill level involved at putting the ball into someone's hand running at that speed. Like a moving target is obviously very, very hard to hit, but it's always been the block now, that question.
Even from defender's point of view, when Cian Lynch has the ball, you just can't switch off. I'd say Owen O'Donnell probably thought, he's going to take a point here now, we'll go back out. He might go back out in position, but he just split it was meant to happen, you know, and he had the confidence to go for it as well, because if that didn't go off and you could hear the reaction of the crowd, so what are you doing, just take our point, and there would have been more. But look, it paid off for him all right now, and he has the skill to back it up there as well. But
it paid off. They only won by 3 points.
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge possession in the game, but it's just from a defender's point of view, when the likes of Cian Lynch, John McGrath, Jason Ford, as what Brian was saying, when they have the ball, you just can't afford, no matter where you're on the field, you can't afford to switch off. You have to be concentrating fully. And I wouldn't say Owen O'Donnell was expecting that pass in behind him. It just split in behind him. It's an absolutely brilliant pass. Yeah,
exactly. Right, there's one more. Stephen O'Keefe saves. The save in the he made 2 saves in the first half, Brian. The big one was from Hussey after being set up by Joe Canning. He had dived kind of ahead of the ball and stuck up his hurl. I'm even not sure whether he was even looking at the ball there when it hit his hurl.
Yeah, as you said, he expected the ball to go across him and he just somehow kept his hurl behind him and deflected up into the air. And Noel Connors used his body really well to make sure that David Glenn didn't get a flick on it. And they got real luck altogether because the ball bounced down and hit Glenn and went out over for a wide ball. So it was a win-win situation from a defensive point of view. But I look, Stephen O'Keefe's a brilliant shot stopper, to be fair. He can be dramatic enough sometimes in his saves, but he's class. He was in New World with us time we went for Skipping, and he was breaking onto the Waterford scene with Davy Fitz. and he wasn't really released to play with UL. Ended up, he has a Fitzgibbon medal, but he was actually sub-keeper. So look, I could see his worth at the time. He's absolute class. His puck-outs are brilliant. He comes off his line a lot and offers kind of an extra sweeper for Waterford. Even again, he even scored pint last year in championship. So it just shows what an all-round hurler he is. So I think he's class and he's a real asset to Waterford.
I thought his second save was even better than his first on. He was just out on top of the forward so quickly, like, you know what I mean. He made his mind up straight away. When he seen the pass coming, he was gone. He was on top. I think it was Joe hit it or something like that.
Yeah, Joe Canning.
He was just on top of him straight away, like, you know what I mean. Because even if you hesitate for a second, Joe would have got that shot off and went straight in the goal, like, you know what I mean. So he was just off his line. Decision making is huge for any goalkeeper as well, like, you know. And the confidence he gives the full back line as well is a huge thing, because you don't have to go clear to hit off your back foot. You can turn around and he's always there. He's always an option. So it's a huge thing for any full back line to have.
That's the thing. He is that he kind of. It's just calm when he's around, isn't it? Like, I mean, there's no panic with this fella at all. Even and maybe the sweeper keeper kind of thing I thought was his kind of strongest attribute. But the saves, like, he's pretty good at these bloody saves as well. He went way ahead of it. Right, we'll come back and we'll talk about the matches in part 2. Did any of you actually see? I meant to mention it with Shane Barrett when Hegarty got booked, and him and Barrett started laughing at each other. So it was obviously Barrett had been blackguarding him.
He got away with it.
And Hegarty got done, but it was a lovely little smile at each other, wasn't it? Right, well, we'll mention that if we can get a chance here in part 2. All right, good to go. All right.
Good here, yeah.
Okay, lads, so Limerick were pretty much in control of this. Dublin rallied late on. They won by 119 to 116 in the end. You wonder, did Limerick switch off? But the big pick and talking point out of this was Dublin surprising Limerick by playing a sweeper, right? So they played Shane Barrett, picked him corner forward. He went back and Mark Garrod Hegarty did a good job on him. And that released Sean Moran as the full-time sweeper. Now, we know Dublin like to release Sean Moran at times anyways, but they decided to play him full-time sweeper, right? So the way I look at this, JJ, Dublin were stupid to do it with the wind. They should have gone out and tried to get a lead in the first half anyways with the wind. But absolutely against Limerick, everybody can be down on the sweeper, but against Limerick, whose whole tactics are designed around dragging your half back line out of position and giving in good ball to the full forward line, you don't have to be this big bad wolf of a sweeper. You can play it against Limerick and then not play it the next day. But for me, tactically, at times against Limerick even, maybe not even for a full game, but it makes so much sense.
100%, I'd agree with 100% as well for Dublin to try it. As what you said, you don't have to play it for the whole game, or you don't have to play it the next game. But when you go against Limerick, where's their strength? Their half forward line is their strength. And what they do, they go deep and they put a question mark to the opposing half back line. Do I stay or do I go? That's the thing. A lot of teams don't go and they let Garrod Hegarty and Tom Morrissey, Kyle Hayes pick up the ball 60 yards out and then game is on. That's all Limerick want. Their tactics is we'll run at them or a crossfield ball into Aaron Gillan. So what Dublin done was, anywhere Barrett was on Hegarty, anywhere Hegarty turned, Barrett was right in his face. He was literally there right beside him. No interest in the ball. My man, I'm man marking you. I can do it because Sean Moore is back in front of my full back line as well. Same with Chris Crummy with Tom Morrissey. Tom Morrissey was took off. Garrod Hegarty was took off near the end. They only scored a point each. Now Shane Barrett, I thought, done a great job in Garrod Hegarty. He had him wound up to the last, so yeah.
There was a great little moment in the first half where Garrod Hegarty who got booked, and he started smiling at Shane Barrett, and it was almost like you got me there. Like Barrett was obviously blackguarding him, and Hegarty got caught retaliating. And it was a lovely moment where they both kind of just smiled at each other and went like, "That's the game, lads. That's the game."
It was working down to a certain point, but when Dublin got the ball, what Matty Kenny will be fuming when he looks back in the game, the amount of high ball they hit straight down the middle on top of Tom Condon. When you're playing with a sweeper, you can't afford it. You have to keep it away from the spare man, where the spare man is always going to be down the middle. So he'd be very, very disappointed because they knew what they were going to play. They knew they were going to play the sweeper. They should have either ran with the ball or keep it down the wings, down to the likes of Eamon Dillon, who was on fire. But again, it worked to a certain extent, but again, it needs to be tweaked. Again, but it's an option they have. When you were playing Dublin next game in the Leinster League, your kind of or Leicester Championship, we're saying, are they going to play sweeper, are they not? They have the both options up their sleeve there as well. It's a huge thing for keep an inter-county manager guessing when you're playing them next time, like, you know, which one they're going to play.
That's the thing, and then you've got that tactical flexibility, and they rattled Limerick a little bit with it in the first half, I thought, Brian, but I take JJ's point as well. It's unforgivable for Dublin. Number one, they shouldn't have done it with the wind. Number two, when they knew they were playing a sweeper, it was no surprise to them, so them driving the ball down on top of Tom Conlon was just unforgivable.
Yeah, definitely. The only two of the starting forwards scored then as well. Like now, and both of them were on fire, to be fair, Sutcliffe and Eamon Dillon. But Eamon Dillon looks to be playing wing forward for a lot of that as well. So he got a point maybe in the inside line in the second half. But you know, that just shows that very hard to put in that shift and you're in that full forward line there. You know, 2 against 3, and you know, a high ball coming down top of you, and Tom Condon eating it up, like, you know. So very, very tough. So they had the defensive side of things pretty good for long stretches that game, but you know, they didn't marry it with the, you know, with up front, and made it very, very difficult for the forwards. I think Limerick would have known during the week when they seen Shane Barrett pick the corner forward that there was no way he was playing there. So I think it would have been well flagged.
Right.
When the teams were announced.
Did they pick him corner forward during the week? I didn't notice that. So that's giving the game away. He was picked at, I think it was 13. Well, yeah, I think it was 13 or 15. One of them anyway. So he was. It gave it away that he was going to be back there. So, you know, they got their match. Dublin got their matchups right, I thought, and they made it not a great spectacle, to be honest, but they don't care about that. From a neutral perspective, it wasn't great to look at, but I suppose you're coming up against the All-Ireland champions, so you cannot forgive them for that. Yeah.
And as you said, you know, you're trying to nullify Limerick's strength.
What do you make of the decision to play sweeper? We know you're in general aren't a fan of the sweeper. You're from Offaly. None of you in Offaly like sweeper. But
we're stuck in the dark.
Well, that's what's wrong with Offaly hurling now. You won't embrace the new tactic.
Embrace the sweeper, right?
But for me, it does make sense. It allows your half back line to man mark these 3 lads that have most teams in 6s and 7s.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think that's what Wexford. I think Davy has brought that to a new level. What he does allow their players probably a little bit more is to actually get up the field a lot. You know, so I think Davy brings in a little bit more offensive play, whereas Dublin seemed to be a little bit aimless in their use of the ball.
Yeah.
It was so congested in that middle third yesterday. Like you had practically everyone in there, and very hard to work the ball through the lines. Limerick tried a lot. You know, they're very, very patient on the ball, but it did break down at times, and you know, so there was times where short passing was overdone, but they knew they couldn't afford to strike the ball inside because Sean Moran was just sitting in the pocket. So, as I said, it didn't lead to a great spectacle. You can see why Dublin did it, and it did frustrate Limerick for huge parts of that game. And it wasn't really until they got that goal that they kind of pushed in front completely. But I thought as well, Limerick had obviously a better bench. They brought in Seamus Flanagan, they brought in David Dempsey, 2 big men, Conor Boylan even as well. So that was 3 big men coming in there, and you know, they just kind of got real physical with Dublin in that second half in particular.
Yeah, and Dublin had used 3 subs in the first half through injuries, so they didn't have that impact. And they didn't have the impact, JJ, because they're missing Liam Rush, they're missing Mark Shute, missing Conal Keeney really out of that forward line, which really give it that bit of oomph, along with Sutcliffe and Dillon. Then you're looking at a different kind of prospect altogether, aren't you?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Like Mark Shute, I think, should be definitely on that side if he's been informed that he was there a couple of years ago, you know. But can you play Rush and Keeney with 5 up front? I don't think you can, to be honest with you. You can only go with one of them. And then you need legs around that as well. And Oisin O'Rourke went off there as well. He hurled well against Tipperary too. So, like, they missed a couple of frees in the second half, and Paul Ryan missed a few of them where you'd put your house on him that he would score them. And when they needed to stay in the game, Limerick just pulled away after they got the goal there as well. And they could have went around 10 or 12 minutes without a score. And then they rallied in the last 5 or 10 minutes, alright, but it was just too late at that particular stage. So, if they can learn that now, they need to stay in the game. They need to get a couple of scores and just maintain that, even if Limerick are on top in regarding the general play. But keep within that 2 or 3 points and keep that your scoreboard ticking over. They didn't do that in the second half, and that's where the issues were.
Yeah, maybe that's what.
By the way, a great goal by Ronan Hayes. By the way, that was a savage goal. Great catch and drove through and did really well because, you know, he batted it obviously into the net because he was under serious pressure. The Limerick backs were getting back on him, and I thought that was a great goal. It was one of the times where that direct ball actually paid off, the ability to win your own ball high in the air. So. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, as you said, JJ, if it can mix Liam Rush and Colin Keeney. If Keeney, like, it hasn't been kind of, I don't know, is he fully back in there? I'm not really sure. It's very hard to see how they can all fit there if they've only 5 forwards or even sometimes 6. But
yeah,
they have a lot. They have a lot of talent, though. To be fair,
they have. I wouldn't say that's Dublin going 5 forwards for the whole year.
No,
I think Matty Kenny's tried that out. Yeah, and I would be delighted. Why do you think, Brian, that we don't see that as much from managers? It seems to be, and Davey used to keep teams guessing, but he seems to just be kind of a sweeper man now, and other teams are against it, and there's no kind of ever talk. And I talk about this in football as well. Sometimes you wonder why game plans aren't changed more to suit the opposition, but then they're amateurs and they don't have the same, time to put into practicing different game plans. It seems with Gaelic football and hurling teams, you set your game plan stall out at the start of the year, and it doesn't really change too much from that.
Yeah, I don't know what it got to do with amateur and professional, because I think in fairness to the managers and the coaches, they're absolutely living and breathing the game at the moment. I suppose hurling's still a little bit to an extent off the cuff. The ball travels so fast. There's still huge merit in keeping 3 inside, and obviously trying to play the ball into them as fast as possible. But obviously you're trying to play it to such an advantage that you're giving the forward maybe a 70-30 or even a 60-40 chance of winning it. So in terms of the sweeper, I'm surprised that doesn't come into play more. Particularly come up to half time if you have a lead, or last 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or just after half time. If for instance, JJ's team in Kilkenny were unbelievable coming out in that second half. Try and tighten it up, try and keep in a game as long as you can. So it's interesting. But then on the other side of it, we had Derek McGrath talking. He gave a great talk up in Crow Park there to the youth forum or whatever it was called, and he went through Waterford having 3 different game plans in the first half alone, and at certain stage to get the message in that they're changing to a certain formation and all that. So I think some teams are but then that could have been that can be seen as a criticism of Derek McGrath's tenure in Waterford, and that it was too structured. So I suppose it's trying to find a happy medium, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Waterford kind of switched from having Maurice Shanahan on his own to maybe Jake Dillon going in with him, and they mixed it probably up at different times. I remember Derek telling me that before as well. But that's a good point from Brian there, JJ. Like, say for example at the start of second half where you could traditionally blow a team away, or Dublin or whatever, that for the first 10 minutes of the second half we'll play this sweeper. Next minute you might poke 1 or 2 balls down on top of it, and you might get a bit frustrated, and then you'll figure it out. Yeah. But then when you figure it out, just change back again, and then you have a new set of problems to have to deal with within the game, and how difficult it is for Cody to get instructions in. I just don't see why teams don't do that more often.
A tactic will work for 10 or 15 minutes before the other team cops on.
Yeah.
Before the sideline actually realise, this is a trend, this has happened 4 or 5 times. Yeah. We're playing into their trap, and that'll take 15 minutes before. Now, you could rack up a good few scores on that and outfoxing that way, alright. But if you were to revert from playing an orthodox 15 to a sweeper, you need to practice the sweeper. It's very, very hard to change from a 15 to a sweeper kind of system. It's very easy to change from a sweeper system back to a 15 and 15 because everyone grew up playing at 15 and 15. There's no issues regarding that. But in regarding changing it, you have to obviously have your homework done on it. And that's where I see the likes of Wexford, they could very easily change come a championship. And if they do against a team that's expecting a sweeper system, if they go 15 and 15, they'll catch the team out now for 15-20 minutes before they realise what's going on there as well. So it'd be interesting to see if Davy goes down the road of the Leinster Championship, does he actually go on 15 and 15, even for, as I said, 20 minutes for the start of a game and see what happens,
Yeah, anyway, that's the thing.
Because he always has that plan B to fall back on.
He did that last year against Offaly. He cut Offaly out on that because Offaly had done a lot of work on the sweeper in that Wexford game. There was a huge amount riding on that game, Wexford and Offaly last year, and he caught them out completely going 50, and they absolutely annihilated Offaly the same evening.
Right, okay, so that's an interesting one. What's the story with Galway, lads? I'll start with you, JJ, because you know Galway as this great enigma. They're not turning back into the enigma, are they?
It's hard to know, really. I just don't think they have their right 15 on the field yet to see.
And that's the context. Like, we have to try and fight against saying things like what I'm after saying there, I suppose.
You can only judge them now come the Leinster, a couple of games in Leinster Championship really more than anything, but they have a good few lads to come back, but you'd be kind of worried about their starting 6 forwards, which were this time last year now we're kind of saying, or they've options, they've 8 or 9 players, but now Joseph Cooney is gone and no sign of Johnny Glynn. Niall Burke is starting, but he's not setting the word alight either. They need Conor Cooney back in there again. Question marks over Joe Cannon's fitness now as well. Like, you know, if he is missing for the next couple of weeks, even 3 to 4 weeks coming up to the Leinster Championship, this is the worst time to get an injury, because if you are injured for 4 or 5 weeks and then you're only back for the game, you're after missing a vital part of hurling training. Like for the last 2 or 3 months, it was all kind of fitness work, gym work. From now on, they'll be catering to get their game plan right, getting their striking right there as well. If you're missing a lot of that, especially if it is a leg injury, he can't do a lot of kind of field work, you know, the kind of way. So it'll be interesting to see what way to go. But Micheál Downey will look at the league and said, well, did I find 3 or 4 players that come championship I can actually genuinely trust them? I don't know if he did, because
that's the question I was going to ask.
The biggest thing now they'll have to get rectified now before lunch, and the biggest question mark over it is their goalkeeping position there again. Again, Waterford or Galway had Waterford bet, and they laid in a soft goal again. That soft goal brought Waterford back into it just before half time, gave them a huge amount of confidence going in at half time. For all the hurling Galway did, they should have had Waterford bet out the gate at half time, but they didn't. It was a goalkeeping mistake came in, and then he dropped the ball into goal from 65 yards out. You know what I mean? Just misjudged the ball. Can happen, but he's after making a mistake there in the last couple of games there as well. Like, you know what I mean? So there's again question marks over that goalkeeping position there again, and who does he go with now come championship? Like no one knows, you know, that kind of way.
That's the thing. Who do you think's put their hand up? I know Concannon was excellent the last day. He wasn't anything special yesterday. He made a terrible stupid run in front of Conor Whelan at one stage in the second half. Conor Whelan potentially had a goal on, only he ran straight in front of his path. Brian.
Yeah, I suppose he's one of the only. Then it's the consistency element from his perspective then as well, and we obviously JJ has touched on Niall Burke's consistency too. So I thought David Burke and Conor Cooney were very tired looking in that All Ireland. They obviously didn't hurl to the high standards that they usually look at, and a couple of weeks off for them might re-energise them, but they're badly needed from the Galway perspective. Cathal Mannion's been a revelation in midfield.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think he's been the hurler of the league so far. 4 points again yesterday. But then it's what you do. Like, while he's playing so well in midfield, you need him in the forwards as well. So, you know, who's going to partner him in midfield? You assume David Burke, and then does that push Johnny Cohen back into the backs? You know, there's been no sign of John Hanbury then either. He hasn't featured at all. Obviously, Dottie Burke's been with Corofin. So yeah, it is hard to judge Galway considering, you know, if you get close to their first 15, I think we'll see a different outfit completely. And I still think they'll get to a Leinster final, and obviously then, you know, when they're in the final, they're more than capable of winning that Leinster final. But it's after that then is where the problem's going to lie. I thought they were in probably second or third gear yesterday, and they were still, you know, should have won that game, should have seen out that game and we in league final, you know, hurling with half a team and that. So, you know, things aren't doom and gloom for Galway or anything like that, and I'm not saying that you're saying that, but there still seem to be missing that 1 or 2 players. I think, you know, there's no sign of Joseph Cooney coming back. He's a loss. Big, rangy hurler, well able to score as well, and huge outlet for puckouts. And Johnny Glynn, that experiment coming back over from New York and that, it's a tough ask, being honest. That's huge travelling, and while he minds himself fierce well, as your interlude says there, no eating shite and all that. You know, it's still a tough ask to be going over and back from New York to try and play intercounty hurling. It's hard enough when you're living in Ireland, let me tell you.
Yeah, no. Like, I mean, the big thing with Cathal Mannion going to midfield is he's going to midfield in the same year as Joe Cooney and Johnny Glynn aren't around. Yeah, so now you're you're a full forward line down there. You know what I mean? Then so like lightweight in the forwards is how I describe them now. Lightweight, like, I mean, not a threat. Like, other than Joe, obviously, and Joe's at the point now where he looks like he's carrying him on his back like he did 3 or 4 years ago. Whereas that with the great analysis of Galway was that those days were gone.
Yeah, and Conor Whelan he's doing a huge amount of work. Don't get me wrong, absolutely brilliant team player, but he's not scoring. He's not hitting the heights that he did in our last couple of years there as well. He was always effective in the corner, but playing out the field now and working a lot harder now. He's doing a lot of work for the team, but he's not putting on the scoreboard. So that's you're down another 2 or 3 points, because he was always capable of scoring 4 or 5 points from corner forward.
You don't have him in his best position.
He's not in a position because he's just down there to work hard for the team. Like, he's probably doing what Joe Cooney might be doing out in the wing there, but he's actually out there as well. Like, you know, so you're taking away from your team there as well. Like, you know, so
and he's not an option for puck out, so they're losing that then too. You know, like, I mean, they've lost a lot from their forward line.
But Conor Whelan and Joe Canning have done a huge amount of hurling this year already. Like, Conor Whelan was playing with NUIG and hasn't been in a rich frame of form either compared to the heights he was at the last couple of years. You know, he seems to be a little bit stale. And Joe hurled every round of the league. Usually you don't see Joe at this time of the year kind of easing him into it, like the way Kilkenny used to do with Henry Shefflin, and he'll peak at the right time of the year. Whereas he hurled all the league. Now, he seemed to be going through the motions, I thought, for large parts of the league, but he still has a lot of hurling done compared to normal. So these guys have had to shoulder a lot of the burden while the other players have been away. So it brings a whole new challenge. And as well, like, Donoghue now is in his 3rd season as well, so it's you know, it certainly is interesting from a Galway perspective. They're more than good enough if they have everyone available. I think that, you know, size, physicality, ability to win their own ball, obviously no little skill up front. I think they have absolutely everything, but it's trying to marry all those things and get their best 15 on the field. It's going to be crucial. And as well, the last couple of years, I think we've seen this with Limerick in particular. The fact that you need such a strong panel nowadays to get you over the line, I think you can't just be relying on the same 15 all the time. Yeah,
no, definitely. Just a quick word on Waterford. We'll cover Waterford a bit more on Thursday ahead of the final. Like, I mean, character is the word you could use to describe this. Like, go down to 14 men and then score 7 in a row. Yeah. Now, in that time, Galway hit 7 wides in a row, so it wouldn't have been 7 in a row, and Galway didn't have their what do you say for shooting boots in Gaelic football? You don't say shooting boots in hurling. They didn't have their radar in because it was Pádraig Mannion, it was like a Ride of Rovers effort, and Davy Glennon missed a bad one, and Cohn missed a bad one. It was just like, Jesus, Galway, like, what? Flynn
missed 65 after Joe went off injured. That really kind of knocked the nail on the head in as well. But you have to admire Waterford what they did when they brought in legs as well. They brought in a couple of young forwards there as well, and they all contributed to the scoreboard as well. A couple of great scores, but they worked very, very hard up front.
No Brick or Maurice Shanahan.
It wasn't the game for him. It wasn't the game, no, because you're better off coming in with younger lads with legs, because when you're down to 14 men, there's obviously 5 against 6, so you're going to have to cover that ground a lot more quicker.
Smart management too, right?
Yeah, huge. And it worked out. They got a couple of scores with him, and they won a couple of frees there as well. So no, great management. And Austin Gleeson wasn't great yesterday either, like, you know what I mean. So a few of their Kevin Moran stood up, tied the work with Jamie Barron was absolutely fantastic in the middle of the field as well, and on his game he's just unmarkable. He's everywhere, to be fair to him. Yeah, no, he definitely is.
By the way, every time you give a player the Paddy Power Player of the Week, they seem to dive the next week. The nose dive.
The huge pressure, Brian.
You're huge pressure. On them.
Yeah, no, look, it's huge pressure when they get word they've won performance of the weekend. It's just that added bit of pressure. Like, I mean, I don't know what it is.
Like Nicholas Bentner, then the Paddy Power dog. They're absolutely cat Malone.
But what do you make of the legs that they brought on? Like, Jack Prendergast, obviously little flyer. Peter Hogan is pretty fast as well. Do you know?
I thought the moment of the game I thought was hilarious. That 2 players are very like each other. Davy Glennon Chase and Tommy Ryan down the sideline, 4 yellow helmets and 2 corner forwards. Oh, it was absolutely hilarious. But some score by Tommy Ryan, it was unbelievable. Could have struck it out of his hand, but as he likes to do, put it back on the hurl and struck it off the hurl on the sideline. It was phenomenal altogether.
Yeah, and
it shows the change in the style from Waterford, that, you know, that they're trusting these players. Like, these players, you have to remember, keep saying this, these are no mugs either. These have won or been involved in minor and under 21 All-Ireland, won under 21 All-Ireland. So he's putting a lot of faith in these boys. They're nails probably that the hurling people around the country are not as used to, but these guys have been knocking on the door in Waterford for the last couple of years. So you know, I think that's what's creating a little bit of excitement in Waterford as well, knowing that these players are coming and they're being trusted to take these opportunities.
Yeah, and what would you make of the Maurice Shanahan and Brick Walsh not getting a run, because they got such a big cheer? What was the last? Oh, against Clare. Now they're beating Clare, hammering Clare, so maybe that's why they got the run. And I take JJ's point, but also, like, the crowd giving you a big cheer when you really need it, there might be something there as well.
Yeah, look, I think they're being appreciative of everything, particularly that Brick Walsh has done for Waterford over the years, and he's staying in there, you know, hoping that he's going to get his Celtic Cross, and no more player that deserves one for the huge effort he's put in for Waterford. And obviously Morris himself has gone through his own battles and has continued to stay in there as well, so it's good to see him back hurling too. And he's been unlucky with injuries as well, so I think that from that perspective, that was the game and particularly Morris, to bring him in and give him a bit of game time when Waterford were in front. But because you never know what's going on behind closed doors, how much people are putting up their hand and showing what they're actually offering to it. And I think JJ completely hit the nail on the head. I think it was horse for courses. It was a game that needed legs, particularly when they were down to 14. But it just, as I keep saying, this is the trust that Paul Fannin and his backroom team have in these players, that they're not just players in there making up numbers. They mightn't be household names yet, but they're obviously really, really talented players, and they're in there, and there's huge competition among them. And you're going to trust anyone that goes in there, and that's replicated in the way that they're hurling.
Yeah, no, it is. That half back line looks like a championship half back line about it, doesn't it? Philip Mattany, Tyg de Burke and Kevin Moran. And then you have Jamie Barron in front of him. What do you make of Callum Lyons? He scored that spectacular point. They need a full back.
Well,
they've tried Prunty back there, who's wing back on the under 21s, and it looks like they tried Philip Mattany back there too. So a little bit of experimentation still for Waterford as well.
Yeah, well, he put his hand up now yesterday, in fairness to him. Like, and you can only judge him on these. And next week will be a huge test for him up in Crow Park as well, so why not give him a go again and see how he gets on, because he hurled well, and anytime he came out with the ball, he was looking for his Waterford defenders there as well. He wasn't just hitting it to get rid of it, he was hitting it to actually hold on possession as well. And what the whole Waterford team are trying to do now is hold on to possession as much as possible. But I was impressed by him, to be fair. Like, again, small but green, alright, but again, you can only gather that experience by actually playing these big games. And if he goes well next Sunday, sure, his confidence going into Munster Championship will be through the roof.
Yeah, it's an aghast Waterford.
The key thing was he was actually hitting it. In fairness to Barry Coughlin that used to be there, he brilliant at what he did, manhandling players and frustrating the full forward in particular. But I don't think I've ever seen him hit the ball in his 5 or 6 years playing inter-county hurling, whereas Callum Lyons then pops up, has that confidence, pop a ball over the bar from 70 yards out. So it'll be interesting. You're dead right. It's interesting to watch that space and see who can actually fill that full back space, because obviously Noel Connors is going to be one cornerback. You expect Shane Fives to come back in there maybe and take the other cornerback spot, but they've plenty of players putting their hand up, and they're getting great experience at the moment.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. Right, okay, listen, we'll come back and we'll do Paddy Power performance of the weekend. Paddy Power performance of the weekend. The first nomination for this is Owen O'Donnell. What an absolute monster of a fullback this fella is. A young fella, a young bull, I'd call him. A young pretender to the crown, is ready to come on now and fight the other bull to mate with all the. What am I talking about?
How are you talking about?
Right, but he's absolutely sensational. Like, he's so physical. Like, he actually looks for physical contact, even if it's not even there. He actually go looking for a lad to push him out of his way.
Even when he has the ball in his hand, he goes to go over and hits the forward again before he goes down, clears the ball. Like, he's just brilliant. He's one way. He's just straight lines. He tacks the ball at all, and he backs himself as well. It's a huge thing. He's a great partnership with Paddy Smith in the corner as well. The two of them are played DCU together as well, so they're used to each other's games and everything as well. So they trust each other as well. You can see by the way they played it, actually genuinely trust each other as well. But I think O'Donnell was the last couple of years showing potential, but he's actually fulfilling his potential now this year as well. So far, he's actually brilliant hurler, brilliant find for Matty Kenny. Just have not to worry about that full back berth. It's a huge thing for him, like, and you can just put your team around him there as well. Like, it's a great player. Player.
No, he is. So Owen O'Donnell then, is he nailed in fullback and Smith nailed on cornerback and O'Callaghan come back in the other corner, or what is that a fullback line that's settled?
Or else Paddy Smith will definitely be in one of the corners, because again he's very comfortable on the ball, running with the ball as well. So if they have O'Callaghan might go in fullback and put O'Donnell in the other corner, depending on who they're playing, maybe man marking, because O'Donnell is so strong, so physically strong. I wouldn't say any forward up and down the country would like marking him as well. So Matty Kenny is a good headache to have, like, you know what I mean. But I'd say he has an idea of where he wants to go. Personally, I probably would play him full back and just leave him there, because he's the safest houses back there at the moment.
Yeah. There's an inspirational kind of side to his game, Brian.
Oh, definitely. His speed, his pace is unbelievable. He beat one of the Limerick players. I think it was Peter Casey out to a ball, or Graham Mulcahy in that game yesterday, and it was just awe-dropping in fairness to him. And he's phenomenal. He keeps coming in straight lines as well and hopping off players. Really, really impressed. I saw him a couple of years ago, and I remember marking down who he was, because I was just saying, glad I'm retired. I wouldn't like to be marking the likes of him now.
No.
Wouldn't be my forte. Yeah, he's nailed on, and that's a formidable backline when you say it like that. You know, you bring back in Keane O'Callaghan, another peak tough defender as well, really athletic type of a guy, and Smith then as well. Like, that's as good as what's around, to be fair.
Yeah, that's the thing. I look through Dublin's team and you kind of see whoever will be back, and like I'm starting to think Dublin will be slightly ahead of Wexford when they have everybody back, JJ.
Yeah, it'll be very, very competitive. I'd say Matty's delighted now the way the league went. Every player after getting game time, but they're after getting a bit of confidence in the way they can play, because pushing the All-Ireland champions to maybe 3 points in the end, but they had a good rattle off them, you know what I mean? They didn't lie back down, and again, after being on the back, going down to Hurles and beating Tipperary, which is a huge monkey off their back, they'll have to gain huge confidence from that. And they are all fast, they're strong, they're athletic. When the ground hardens up another bit again, it'll suit them down to the ground again. Like, you know, and the game they play is possession game and running off the shoulder there as well. So it'll suit them down to the ground the way the conditions will go from now on in coming into the summer as well.
Yeah, no, it will suit them.
And you remember last year's championship then as well. Like, they should have beaten Wexford and they should have beaten Kilkenny. So they will be relishing this Leinster Championship as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they'll be right into it. So do we give Danny Sutcliffe a nomination for the brilliant first half, or do we criticise him for kind of going out of it in the second half, Brian? Like, his 3 points in the first half. Something about Danny Sutcliffe in that he's such an exciting all-action player. All his points seem to be like great, spectacular ones.
Yeah, look, he's classy. 3 shots taken in the first 5 minutes, which I couldn't understand. Dan Morrissey, who was marking him, when they had a sweeper behind him, he just wasn't sticking to him completely. But I suppose, again, it's his ability to win his own ball. He caught a couple of great balls and has the legs to get around anyone. He's class. I won't be too critical in the second half, because it's a hard shift to do it at 70 minutes at inter-county level. And particularly in the type of game that Dublin were playing, you know, it was all about that middle third and clogging up the middle third. I think, you know, Limerick, in fairness to them, I think they took control of that game in that second half. So, you know, I wouldn't be overly critical of him, but look, he's a joy to behold when he's in full flight, and he certainly is back to his best of what he was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and that's a real positive for Matty Kenny as well. And look, we keep saying this, we're praising Dublin a lot now, and rightly so, but if they can get that consistency into their game, particularly into some of their forwards, the likes of Oisin O'Rourke, Eamon Dillon, they can step up there. I think they'll be really knocking on the door.
Yeah, Danny Sutcliffe got off to a bad start with me because he cleaned out Tommy Walsh, my favourite ever player, a couple of times, JJ, when you were still playing. He gave him all sorts of trouble, didn't he, when we weren't used to seeing Tommy getting trouble. Yeah,
look, he's all action, you know what I mean? I think his best position is centre forward, because he's always involved in the play. If the ball breaks either side of it, he can go actually get involved in that side of the field. When he's on one wing, he's kind of restricted a small bit, but he's all over the field, he's all action as well. And as Brian said, he wins his own ball. It's a huge thing, like, you know, but he's very accurate as well. But in fairness, in the second half, he got stuck in there as well, and he tried to win it back with the ball. It wasn't a case of he fell off the radar altogether. Like, just he wasn't in the prime possession, and then he was just swamped up by Limerick backs there as well. But no, all action, and I think Dublin are best off leaving him centre forward and let him be involved in the game, because he has so many questions to the centre back. Again, if you've no sweeper behind you, do I follow him wherever he goes, or do we leave the centre right open? You know, that kind of way. So he's going to pose a lot of questions opposing centre backs.
And the thing about him from centre forward, you don't see him drifting back way too far, do you? Like, I mean, he
seems back as far as midfield, and that'll be it, and then he's going on attacking.
Exactly. So that's a nightmare. Like, sometimes if centre forward goes back to your 45, you're like, this is great.
Sure, he's only hit the ball back up to you anyway. You know, that kind of way,
so he keeps it dangerous. Jamie Barron, Brian, like, I mean, the obvious bit of skill was his pick-up off the ground when Joe Canning was coming in swinging at it. Like, I mean, you don't often see anybody kind of make Joe look a little bit kind of clumbersome or slow to the ball. Like, I mean, it's usually Joe doing that the other way around. This lad's a sensation of a player. There's no two ways about it. Like, I mean, it's not just like his engine is second to none. Like, I mean, remember the goal he scored against Kilkenny, where he's still flying it from running from halfway in the last few seconds. But his skill levels are seriously underrated.
Definitely. He is the full package now, in fairness to him. Every sort of way, and you say he's all energy as well. He's buzzing around the place. He's involved in absolutely everything from a good perspective from Waterford. You know, he's linking between midfield, or between the half back line and the full, or the half forward line. popping up everywhere, driving straight through the centre. He has an eye for goal. He's able to take his points. He has it all, obviously, and he's back hurling to his absolute best at the moment. He's been really consistent, I think, over the last number of years, but I think he seems to be in a real rich vein of form at the moment, and he's relishing it. And I think he's bringing a lot of these other players into the game really well. And we saw a lot of instances of that over the last few weeks where his vision is phenomenal. He's able to just see players outside him. His peripheral vision must be excellent because he's able to see players coming off the shoulder or just passes that other people aren't seeing. And I just think he has it all. He's a class act.
Well, that's the thing, and like playing in midfield, and you see it with Keane Lynch as well, and traditional midfielders don't necessarily like marking each other too tight, so suddenly you have a Jamie Byrne and a Keane Lynch getting free rolls around the field, and you
have to ask the question, would you actually put a man marker on him, you know what I mean?
Will they be marking each other the next day?
As neutrals, you don't want to see that, you know what I mean? You want these lads on the ball expressing each other, but as the opposing manager kind of saying, right, curtail his influence, but
he's always free for a pass.
He is,
and then when he gets the pass, he always has time to go, surely an opposing manager says, here, let's cut down Jamie Byrne's time on the ball.
It'd be easier said than done. I'd say you need probably 2 or 3 lads, a 20-minute shift either one to stick up for him.
He never stops moving.
He's unbelievable. I'd say his stats for his GPS must be through the roof there as well, I'd say. But ideal for if you're playing with him, if you're a player around his vicinity, he'll always there. He's always an out ball for you. So whenever you're in trouble, if you look up, he'll be there for you. And you know that in your own head. Like when you do win the ball, you throw it out to him straight away, and then you're on the attack straight away because he has speed to burn. He'll break tackles and he's gone. Simple as that. Yeah,
exactly. So Keane Lynch is the other one. We talked enough about Keane Lynch. He's Player of the Year. He just does everything simple, smart. It's spectacular, but it just looks so easy to him, doesn't it? Just constant little passes. He's never under pressure. His skill levels are out of control. Even if somebody's whacking him with a hurl, he's just calm and measured. He just doesn't seem to be ever... It's like, go away from me. I have this under control.
He's so good in rucks as well. He actually doesn't get the credit he deserves. He comes out with every ball that he goes in for. He's so skillful in regard to moving his body as well. He rises up, turns, moves his body and gone with the ball. The rest of them are 3 or 4 of the lads now are rooting at it
with 2 hands.
Don't know where it's going. Your man is gone, comes in, gets the ball and he's gone. You know what I mean? He's just so skillful.
Yeah, Diarmaid Byrnes is the final nomination, Brian. He seems to get so many possessions in a game. Now, I know wing back, you're in the game a lot, but maybe it's because he's on the freeze as well. He just seems to be on the ball all the time.
Yeah, again, he's just so strong. I think he's a formidable opponent because he's a big lefty there, like JJ as well. So he's really strong in the air. And he's used to the ball is brilliant. I know he takes a few shots as well when he gets the opportunity, but usually he plays great ball. Even for a big rangy hurler, he's very good at the short stick passing as well. He's able to pop it left and right. Not just, I know he favours his right side, but he's well able to strike the ball off his left too. And another lad with a huge engine as well because he's popping up all over the place. And when Declan Hannon comes back into that half back line as well, I think frees up Dan Morrissey at the other end, and it's almost like a wall that Limerick have there, and it's very hard to get beyond him. And I think him in particular, he's just brilliant. He's a serious outlet of outballing from that kind of middle third. Darragh Donovan can turn back to him. Declan Hannon, when he's there, turns back to him, and he delivers the ball inside then. So
yeah.
Look, another man that's cast, obviously well able to take the freeze then as well. So he has that eye for a goal then as well.
Maybe it's the new jerseys or something, but Limerick look like they've done a lot of work in the gym. Mike Casey came onto the field yesterday and he had huge. A chest on him. Jesus.
But they all have big chests. Even the 2 Morrisseys must be.
They have huge chests too.
They must be in the gym trying to outdo each other every day. You know what I mean?
Dan is a beast of a man.
Massive.
Maybe and English is a huge man too. He's gone fierce. Big upper body, or is it Finn, the fullback?
Finn, yeah. They're not even too small, but with them jerseys, I suppose you have to be in shape. You know what I mean? There's not with the big baggy jerseys before where you could hide the belly or anything like that. Now everything is out there, it's just exposed, But no, they're after doing phenomenal work now. Even
is that why you never had the tight jerseys?
Well, no. Hang on a second now. Vertical stripes are great for weight gain. The Kilkenny had that smart.
10 pounds there, only.
You're not meant to wear. You're meant to wear verticals if you've got a few pounds on you.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay.
You didn't even know that.
No, stop talking rubbish.
Fashion tips I've only
I put on a bit of weight at the end of last year, and I had to try and figure it out.
That's why you're dropped off to intermediate,
Right, who am I going to give performance of the weekend? I'm going to give it to Owen O'Donnell. We have a new Rock. We all love the Rock. He scored a point like the Rock, and he's getting a little bit like the Rock in that when he wins the ball. Do you remember the Rock used to win it and he'd actually go running for lads, wasn't it? Wasn't it DJ he went running for that time, and Martin Comerford? Like he didn't need that contact, but like that, but that's inspirational too. And if O'Donnell wants to get that, there's a place in a team for a fella like that.
That's a huge thing. He gets a crowd after feet then as well, like, you know, that kind of way. So it's a huge thing. It gives a lift to everyone else as well, like, you know, especially if he wins the free coming out there as well, just hits a couple of lads, gets the whole thing
suddenly
going.
That's inspirational. It doesn't have to be a point or anything like that. So there you are, Owen O'Donnell, you're the new Rock. Congratulations. Right, we'll be back and we'll do a preview show on Thursday ahead of the league finals. We'll talk to you then. Good luck.